As you can see on this blustery morning, I've brought my open boat home ready to work on it over the winter time, all ready for the bass in the spring, or early summer should I say. So I've got plans for it. If like me you use that stuff, I quite like it. It has lots of interesting properties. There are people who make up their own, and I've got my own various mixtures, but from time to time that's just handy. You can buy this by the gallon, and I've never done that. It's quite expensive. But when these things run out and there's no more you tend to throw them away, and you shake them and you assume there's nothing left in them. Well, here's a little one, and I've got a craft knife and just cut round the top. After the pressure, you know, there's no more pressure there of course. And I was surprised how much was left in it, and I've spilt quite a lot on the bench. But there's a little thing there, look. There's quite a lot there, and when you think there was equally that much on the bench, I decided that in future I wouldn't throw them away until I'd completely emptied them out. There are times when you don't always want to spray, and if that's kept in a jar and used in a little dropper or something, little oiler, that can be very handy. Anyway, in taking that apart, there's a plastic feed tube that goes down from the jet, obviously. Anyway, I put this in, waste not, want not, right? I put this plastic pipe in a jar of petrol, and it's been in there for 5 days, and it's just as hard and just as supple as it was when I put it in. So it's probably not, you know, resistant to heat, but it's not affected by petrol, and it's about the sort of strimmer type size, so at a push that could come in handy. Anyway, we chuck nothing away, as you know. Because I've got the boat home, and this is what the video is about, I made up a temporary trailer, just a wooden thing. So it's an unknown quantity, but fortunately I had a friend give me a hand and it went without a hitch, and as I say, I've got it home. But in the process I got muddy, the boat got muddy, my car got muddy, so I jet washed the whole lot over to get rid of the mud and the worst of it. And someone gave me I've got a little Karcher pressure washer, nothing very special. And someone gave me a rather nice lance, but the lance and, you know, the actual lance fittings wasn't compatible, and they didn't fit my model. So rather than chuck it away, I decided to cut the hose off. I thought, well, you never know when this is going to come in handy. Waste not, want not, right? A friend of mine, who unfortunately is no longer with us, he worked for a high pressure hose company. And when this stuff first, because it's a bit unwieldy, isn't it? When this stuff first came out, he said, plastic pressure hoses is, I'm amazed how that can withstand 130, 140 bar pressure. And as I say, it is a bit unwieldy, but we won't waste it. Anyway, in the process of cutting that off, I've got a small section here, and on the inside you've got quite a hard white plastic, an inner, but it's also got a fiberglass braided middle, a bit like coax cable. That's a woven weave, fiberglass weave, and then an outer plastic sheath. So that's why it's so tough, and that's why it can take the pressure. I didn't know that. My boat, through most of the summer, is on a tidal mooring, and on the back was a Seagull Sentry. It's covered up from the weather, but it's what I use with that little open boat, and it's perfectly fine. And whilst it's not high priority for thieves, they go for the modern high-end expensive things, I didn't want to lose it, and So I made it a little bit more secure, and I used this. This is don't be misled by the small size of it. This is a stainless flexible wire, and it would take well over 2 tons of tensile. You could cut it if you came armed with bolt cutters and so forth, but it wouldn't be very easy to hacksaw. And anyway, it's a deterrent. So I slipped a little bit of this round the turnbuckles and the outboard, and being stainless, it's no problem. And using little furrows, these little oval furrows, of which I've several, I made an eye, went through, bent round, and made an eye like so, you see. And then with a pair of crimping, those things, let's put that in there. That's it, and then we'll just clip that together. And you can see what that's done, and there's no way that's gonna be pulled out. So that went round and secured the engine to the boat. I could have used some padlocks through there. Anyway, what am I telling you this for? Well, the point I'm making is that I had some sort of security for one engine, but now I brought the boat home, I've got yet another engine to find somewhere for. Well, I'm running out of space in this workshop, so I've decided to put them in the greenhouse. Well, the greenhouse, disused greenhouse, is not particularly secure, and there's several there now, so I thought, well, we'll chain them up. I didn't want to use chain because chain can do some damage, so I thought something on that vein, but something perhaps a little bit more substantial. And if it ran through the 6 or 7 outboards I've currently got out there, plus the stands and frames, it's not going to be very easy for someone to casually run off with. So that was the plan. Nowadays, as a result of overzealous health and safety mob, you get a lot of yachtsmen who will replace their standing rigging, such as this, often in my opinion unnecessary, but anyway, we won't go down there. But anyway, they throw it out. It's perfectly good, perfectly good. And this is immensely strong, of course. And these are the usual compression fittings that, with an eye, that they use. Well, I can produce those. I can swage that size and even larger on the fly press. But it's a bit bulky, it's a bit heavy, and if I've got that on one end, it's fine. But if I've got nothing on the other, I just want a short strop. I really wanted something a little bit more, a little bit neater. I needn't go to this sort of strength. I mean, if someone's going to break that away, they're going to do so much damage. It's not going to not worth their time. Their time, is it? So, I've no doubt one can buy all the necessary crimps and fittings, probably for very, very cheap prices. But I like to make things, as you know, and I've got some sections of sort of oval aluminium, seamless, so it must be extruded. Not sure where I got this from. It was probably a washing line whirligig or a parasol or something. But you can see it's an very similar sort of shape to that. And so, again on the waste not want not, I took a small section of this and with my little pull down chop saw cut a selection of little ferrules like so. So it's just a question now of making up a simple tool that will crimp those onto that. While I do have numerous crimpers that will do the job, electric, hydraulic, mechanical, I decided it'd be interesting to make something for the fly press, and here I've got a little block of metal. Well, I had 2 actually, and where they joined I held them both in a vise and I drilled 2 parallel holes with a drill, so it's given me a W shape. I don't know if you can see that here. and that's the bottom half of the die. If I back, there we go. This is my fly press, and then the actual tooling I've made up. I like making tooling up for the fly press because it doesn't get used anything like as much as it should, and it's a versatile tool. But it's a sledgehammer to crack a nut in this case. Anyway, I have some. This is cordage. This isn't wire, but exactly the same principle. And there I've put the little collar round. If I place that in there, bring the fly press down and get the arm out of the way. That's about the middle there. Yeah, takes no effort at all, just a little bit of that. And there's our crimped. And I can adjust how far this goes down, how much of a crimp. I mean, that with this light material could easily be done with a hammer and a blunt cold chisel. But I just fancied making up a tool to do the job. In the process of picking up the boat on the way back, I spotted yet another one of those. It's a Dan buoy. This one's got a hole through the middle. Would have had a pole and a flag on there. And oh, I can't tell you how many of these things I pick up. And it always amazes me how much equipment people lose. Oars, boat hooks, buoys, fenders. I mean, I've got quite a regular thing on eBay. I think I sell them to people more than once. But what really surprises me is not the amount that they lose, but why they don't bother to pick them up. It costs nothing to clean them up. All this growth will come off. I mean, that amount of growth, that's got to be over a year, maybe 2 years of barnacles on there. You know? So for all that time, it's not just me finding these, is it? It's got to be other people. Is it beneath their dignity to pick these things up? Or unlike me, have they got so much money that they'd much rather go to a chandler's and buy a nice shiny new one, please? Well, long may they continue to do it. Oh dear. But you'll be amazed how well this will come up. It's, you know, it's salvaging things, it's making use of things. Any fool can go and buy. Perhaps I'm not stupid enough. So you can see how it's coming. Anyway, I'll carry on for 10 minutes. Any commercial premises, hospitals, places where there's large areas of floors, commercial cleaners, where they use industrial floor cleaners, there's usually big mats that scrub the floor, and the centres of them they throw away, and it's sort of that material. And well, guess who picks them up? That, with some bleach, will get rid of all that green. So that's why I put the rubber gloves on. Ooh. That's all you have to do. Well, as you can see, it's turned out quite good. It's a job to get in all those nooks and nannies. You could if you took your time with that. And here you can see evidence where the barnacles were. You could use a sharp scraper, and it will come, but you know, just how far do you want to go? That is a perfectly usable, perfectly saleable buoy, and you'll see that on eBay with 34 others this week. Finally, we come to my trusty old Silver Century Seagull Outboard, otherwise known as Marmite. People either love them or hate them. Some wouldn't, you know, wouldn't reckon them at all, and reckon they're not even suitable as a boat anchor. I love them. I can't understand it. If treated right, and considering their age and what they are, well, if I was stranded at sea with unlimited amount of fuel, there's no other outboard I would have than a Seagull, I can tell you. Anyway, I won't, you know my opinions on that by now. This isn't a pretty engine. This is the engine I've been using all season, and this is the end of the season, and I'm now just going to give it a little bit of maintenance. I'm not going to strip it or do anything major here. It's just going to be laid up for the winter, all ready for next year's season. So it's just a question of oil cleaning things up. I shall remove the plug and put a couple of squirts of oil into the cylinder, spin it over a few times, and do that once every 2 or 3 months. Clean up all the linkages and put on some copper E's where necessary. Oil the Bowden cable, stop that from rusting, so that's nice and free. This block and this barrel and this were painted last year with a silver paint. I don't advocate painting these at all, but this is a working engine. What I mean by that is this sits on the boat at 45-degree angles, 18 2-foot inches above salt water. It's there 24/7. You know, it's out in the environment. Poor old thing, they weren't designed to be left like that. The head gets covered up with a plastic bag and a bungee, but just to keep some of this rust at bay. I mean, it's terrible environment, salt water. Let's see if we can come down here. This has all been painted by me at some point. I'll empty the gearbox and replace the oil. You can see some evidence there of emulsified oil. If I was using this in the winter, I'd drop the viscosity to, I've got some Hypoid 90. It makes for easier starting and so forth, but as this is going to be used only for bass fishing in the summer now that I'm getting older, I'll drain this oil. That's quite normal, by the way, and put in SEA 140, which is what they recommend. All these engines dribble, they're messy, they're noisy, they're particularly thirsty and so on, and they're old hat by a lot of people's standards, which is probably why you know, a lot of people don't rate them. But I think they're a fantastic engine, and well, each to their own. This one's nice. I'll take out any remains of fuel. That's a brass tank, by the way, so no rust problems there. But I'll clean the carburetor anyway to get rid of any residue. I will take out the tap and place that in a jar of petrol to keep the cork nice and swollen. I'll take out the old fuel, as I say, because we're going to start the season with fresh fuel. It does go off. If you stick your nose in the top and it starts to smell, that's... Most of the old outboards and things I work with, they sort of reek of old fuel, and well, it goes off. It's not like wine, you know, it don't get any better. So we'll just give this a little bit of a birthday, nothing too major, and that'll be stood up for next season, and then with a bit of luck, God willing, if I'm still about, we'll show you some fishing videos. Just before she's emptied and put away for the winter, I can't resist one more little run up.
third throttle.
Why don't people love them? I do. I know it sounds corny, but if you look after these things, they will look after you. And it's so nice to know that that engine which is purring away on the end of your boat, especially if the tide's turned and perhaps it's starting to rain, perhaps it's getting dark, and you've still got a few more miles to run home. It's nice to know that, comforting to know if nothing else, that you've maintained your engine to the best of your ability.